Hey, welcome to my long-term 2,500 mile all-terrain review of my Salsa Journeyman Apex 1 650B. A little bit of background. I'm 6'5", 250 pounds, and I'd put my my body in the dad bod Sasquatch physique. And I'm not a bike guy. I'm not super into racing or anything like that. So just know that's what you're getting into with this review. My style is I like exploring, I like adventuring, I like bike packing and touring and just really having fun on a bike. So that's kind of the paradigm that this review is going to be operating from. So the first thing I should get out of the way is things that aren't stock on this bike. I put some race face chesters on here. They work fine. The pins rusted out within like a week, so they're okay. And replace the saddle to a more comfortable one. But other than that, everything is stock, straight out of the box. Next thing I'd like to point out is the color. That was one of the things that really drew me to this first. You really have to kind of see it in person to fully appreciate how cool it is. It's definitely hot pink, like don't get me wrong, but it'll shift from more of like a deep red to kind of a purpley color out in the sun. So it's fantastic. I think they've got different colors now, like there's a yellow one. It looks really sweet too. So I don't think you can go wrong with the 650B Apex 1 model. So frame size, this is the extra large version. It's a 59.5 centimeter frame. This was the biggest one they had. I was a little nervous about it at first. But when I looked at the stack and reach, it was pretty similar to my, I think a 60 centimeter Fuji cyclocross bike. So it's a little bit bigger stack and reach, even though that's a 60 centimeter frame. So this one fit me really, really well. I like it a lot. It's got more of an upright geometry to it, so it's very comfortable on the longer rides. Very stable, very smooth. If I had to pick one thing that was a little different going from the skinnier cyclocross bike to this one felt a little bit more sluggish uphill and a little bit faster and more stable downhill, but that could just be me and the fact that I'm 250 pounds, so take that for what it's worth. But that is something that I did feel like I noticed when I switched over. The brakes are TRP Spires, they're mechanical. Never had a single problem with them. They were easy to adjust. I did have to adjust them quite a bit over this season, but they worked fine. There's nothing flashy about them, nothing fancy. I stopped when I wanted to stop, so those were good there. The Apex 1 group set combo I'm in love with. I really, really like it. It's a 40 tooth up front and 11 to 42 in the back. I never felt like I didn't have enough gears. There was maybe one time when I was fully loaded going up a hill, I might have had to get off and walk. And even when I was on Ragbri, going 40 miles an hour downhill with a tailwind, I felt like I was going fast enough. I wasn't pedaling out or anything like that. So I was super impressed with that overall combination that came stock on it. The Apex 1 shifters and the brake handles, they're just great. I loved it. I'm a fan of the 1x system. I don't think I'll ever go back to anything else other than a 1x. I was just really impressed. It was simple. It was smooth. It was just easy to shift up, shift down. I never really thought about shifting like I used to, depending on where I was at, but oh yeah, love it. In terms of mounts for touring or bike packing, they're everywhere. You got two on the top, you got two down here, and then the standard two here, plus mounts for fenders on the back. I've ridden this with kind of a bike packing setup before, and I've ridden it with more of a touring setup, and it's awesome. It looks sweet in a bike packing setup with saddlebags and frame bags on there. It's also got the front mounts, and I've got the Salsa HD cages, and they work awesome. I just strapped some dry bags to those, and I love them. It's very stable even with those on the front. These are Salsa Cowbell handlebars, and super comfortable. They're a little bit flared, tiny bit flared. Really, really enjoyed those. I never really had arm fatigue or arm strain. My hands never really hurt. The stock handlebar tape that comes with it, I was not impressed with. Just a little bit of sweat, and they got really, really slippery, so I just always had to have my gloves on to feel confident with those. The tires are WTB Nanos, and they're fast rolling, which just means they have kind of a centerline tread going down. Not quite mountain bike in terms of like the tread thickness, but definitely not what you're used to for like more road-based tires, kind of somewhere in between. I loved them, super happy with the tires. On pavement, they went really, really fast. On gravel, they had excellent grip, also fast and stable. And even light single track, they worked really, really well for that. The axles are quick release, and the industry's telling me I don't like those anymore. But I didn't really notice any different. My fat bike actually has quick release on the back and through axle up front. Never noticed a difference between them, and not once this whole year over these thousands of miles I put on this was I like, oh darn, these quick release. Not once would I even ever think about it. So if that's what's holding you back, I wouldn't worry too much about it. They were fine. I've got a roof rack, so I wasn't fiddling with them a lot. That might be different if I had to take the front tire off quite a bit, but yeah, quick release, they were fine. I know that's a big complaint from a lot of people on this bike is that they didn't do through axles on it, but for the price, $1,500, you really can't go wrong.
The one thing that I'm really not that happy with, if I'm honest, is going to be the wheels.
They are, I think, WTB, pretty standard ones. The spokes constantly needed to be tightened. It was almost every, I think, 50 miles that I'd have to go in and tighten these spokes. And the one major thing I had was I blew a spoke in the back during a gravel ride. And yeah, I was just not really impressed with these spokes. Well, one of the reasons I bought this bike is because I do weigh quite a bit for a biker, is I thought these would be a little bit stronger having these 650B 2.1 tires. I was expecting the wheels to kind of hold up. But yeah, I wasn't too impressed with the wheels. That would be, I think if you're serious about it and you weigh a lot, that might be your one upgrade you might want to look into. But that being said, they worked fine. And every 50 miles, I just made sure to go check each spoke and keep them tight. So overall, that's my main gripe with this bike, and it's fairly minor in the grand scheme of things. I've had zero problems with this bike throughout the whole season. Just the spoke, like I said, and then the biggest issue I had to tighten the bottom bracket. That's it. That's the only thing that went wrong. Scratches, here and there, I just touched them up with nail polish. Near impossible to find nail polish that actually matches this, but you don't even notice them anymore. So yeah, super impressed. Really, really love this bike. Okay, now time for the all-terrain review. So let's start with this pavement business here. So a lot of the trails I ride are paved, and there's a lot of roads that are paved. I bought this bike actually to do RAGBRAI, and I have done RAGBRAI on it, and that was all paved. And if you've ever ridden pavement in Iowa, yes, it's pavement, it's smooth, but we also have these terrible cracks all over the place. And it's slightly slower than my 700 by 35 tires on my other bike. But the cushion more than makes up for that. So I barely ride that other bike anymore. This has kind of become my paved road bike too, if you will. And originally I thought, okay, I'll probably have to buy a new wheel set, like a 700C wheel set. It's a little bit skinnier, more road oriented. But frankly, I've scratched that plan. I have no desire to do this. I can easily keep up between 15 and 20 miles an hour with other people with skinnier tires. And the one thing that is awesome is these fatter tires, because they have that fast rolling tread, but they're fat. They roll fine, they roll fast, but they absorb all these little tiny cracks in the Iowa pavement. And when I was on RAGBRAI, I got lots of comments, especially towards the end. People were like, whoa, dude, I'm so jealous. My butt is hurting. I wish I had tires like that. I might need to try that. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of these fast rolling tires. Now, they're not road slicks. They're not really skinny road bike tires, but let's be honest, I'm not racing. I'm just having adventures, cruising around. I love them. It works great for pavement. So this has become, quote, my road bike. Where this thing really shines is where it was made for, gravel, and kind of like anything goes. This bike, I'm so confident on gravel, going up gravel, going down gravel, just cruising, thick, fresh gravel, loose gravel, handles it like a champ. And then of course, hero gravel, it just flies. I love it. I can't tell you enough how awesome of a gravel bike this is. And I've taken gravel rides that are 40, 50, even 60 miles, and it feels so nice. It's really, really, really cool. On pavement, I tend to run the tires around 60 PSI, and then when I run them on gravel, I knock them down to around 45 PSI, and that seems to be a good balance between speed and cushion. So they've really done a great job marketing this as a true gravel bike. I love it. Okay, how about as a mountain bike? Obviously, this isn't a mountain bike, But let's be realistic, this is Iowa. So think about Iowa mountain bike scene. It's like flowy trails, it's not really technical. So double track, this thing excels. I've taken this on light single track before, and it handles little roots, it handles rocks just fine. Obviously, I'm not taking this over jumps or technical equipment on mountain bike trails, but you can do light, flowy single track on this bike. So the range that this bike is capable of is outstanding. It's amazing, and I really can't believe how well it did on Iowa mountain bike trails, which is pretty easy stuff, if we're honest. I think if I was to make one upgrade for the future, I might look into one of those shock absorbing stems, like the Redshift stem. I think that would just make this bike a gravel beast. So overall, I plan to have this bike for 10 years plus. I love it. I highly recommend it. If you get a good deal on it and you're thinking about it, go for it. I really, really love this bike.